Um, but because we've only got 10 minutes left, I want you to, oh, there he is. Okay, I want you to think about this next thing. So I looked into some academic misconduct cases there. And well, what I want you to think about, and just add in your comments at the moment, is about what you've found. So are the good things about Turnitin. So what problems in students' writing does Turnitin help to identify? What's it good at? And that can be misconduct or poor practice. And what is it not so good at detecting? So take a few minutes to think about that, and you can add in some things, or just add in any questions about the video at this point. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that. Okay, so I'll just respond to Nick's one, and please add in any other comments as you're waiting. So Nick has said this issue about students lifting blocks of text. And also, he's just added it can reveal the kinds of blogs or non-scholarly websites that they go to when they're plagiarizing, or even just if they're referencing these things appropriately. And that is one big issue that I've certainly found that Turnitin helps to highlight, is that students have difficulty engaging with the scholarship. So what the factors that you need to take into consideration is certainly the time factor, and also the understanding factor. Now, if students start early enough, obviously with reading academic text, they're not used to doing that when they come in at first year, or if they haven't done that at the institutions they've been before. If they're an international master's, students often struggle with this as well, which is the issue of understanding the academic language and the layout. So Pierre Bourdieu said about the academic language is nobody's native tongue, and it takes time to get into that. So what you find is when students have more time, and if they start early, they can take the time to read, and not just read the text once, but reread the text. As time starts to diminish, and their understanding, if they're struggling with their understanding, they will start to look at more understandable texts, but they will probably be more generalized text, less specific, less academic. And you can see that within the work that they're using. Now, one issue that we'll highlight in a second, the issue about the students referencing things that they haven't read, referencing other people's references, for example, shows up this problem exactly. So if the student hasn't taken the time, they might have just understood one paper or two papers within, and then they put loads of papers in the reference list. So we want them to be honest about what they're reading. On the same hand, we're going to judge them on the quality of their work by what they have read. So the students try and game this a little bit, and Turnitin certainly shows that up. Of their engagement with the academic text. So what we want as teachers, rather than the policing it, is we want them to be completely honest about what they've read and their understanding of it. Now, from a poor practice point of view, what you might find is, well, problems with referencing, for example, and quoting, and not putting the page number with the citation. But the other issue that you might find is that they really haven't engaged with the correct literature, or that if they were completely honest, that they haven't read enough or necessarily understood it. So what you will find is that there is a descriptive approach in their writing. They haven't read and understood, or even critically evaluated the source that they're using. So when students are asked about critical thinking, this is what we're sort of talking about. It starts at their selection of sources. So we often get the questions of how many references should we put in our text? If it's 5,000 words, should it be 50 references, for example? And the answer to that question is really, it depends on the context. So Nadia's mentioned about the new Turnitin interface doesn't allow you to see the original document, okay? I think it does allow you to view the original paper, but just not the student paper. It's always been the case that you could request it. Nadia, do you mean that you can't view another student's paper from this institution? Because that, I think that should be working. Could you just clarify that one for me? And I will come back to that. Now, just as we've only got a few minutes left, I'll just run through this. So as Nick's already mentioned, it is this blocks of text that it does show up. So the classics that Turnitin can show is prototypical plagiarism, as an author called Pecorari referred to it, which is a complete copy of sections or an entire document. So Turnitin's very good at showing that up and very quickly, but students have soon got wise. They know that Turnitin can do that. The other issue that Mary Fairclough in the English department showed that we discussed about this, and just like to thank the English department for providing their examples in the videos that we just looked through as well, is that students will often copy text without providing without placing the quotation marks around it, and Turnitin shows this up. So they will reference it. However, they will not show it's a quote. So they are using the author's words, which can show lack of understanding. And also by not using their own words as well, they're not really authoring the piece. So that is an issue that is certainly good at highlighting. And that is something that you can address with the students. And what the students will find is if they quote all of the text that has been copied, what you see often in papers entire paragraphs almost are copied, or half a paragraph is not the student's own words, which is highly problematic. The third one, falsifying or fabricating references. So students referencing papers that they haven't read. A classic is to admit a secondary reference. And commissioning and contract cheating. So if a student's bought an essay, and if that essay has run it through some version of text matching software, they can claim that the work is plagiarism free to the student. Of course, if the student admits it, that piece of work, then it is technically all plagiarized, because they are submitting work which they have not written and they're putting their name on it, of course, which the university deems as very serious. So if we just move on to this next slide here, are the students being honest about what they're referencing? So this is a classic sort of one where the student should be giving a secondary reference in a number of cases. So we can see that Edward Tyler highlight that we've got here. 1871. Now, why is the student referencing that? Actually, what we find from the Turnitin report is that it's being used a lot in different texts, and the student hasn't read the original source. It would be better for the student to actually find a much more recent definition of culture in the recent relevant academic literature in the field. This other one here is quite problematic, as cited in Mackay 2002, and then this match text here from the same information, and then the same citation again there. If this is copied here as cited in Mackay 2002, again, this is making me think that the student hasn't read that. Now, obviously, if it's an isolated incident, you can't be sure. But actually, this whole paper was, the whole match was 37%. And it's the systematic problems that show up which indicate the plagiarism here. And here is more solid evidence of plagiarism. The other two have been quotes, which could be a coincidence. However, this one, the text has been copied, they have given a reference, but there's no quotation marks. And again, dim and shine, 1977, do we think the students read that? So Turnitin just provides more evidence to what you would be suspecting when you're reading the paper there. And then finally, Hinkle, again, as cited in, and Hinkle. Again, it could be possible that the student has read this, but when we investigated this, and after a misconduct case, I discussed this with the student, they did show the book that they had taken most of this from. It was actually from one source. So relating back to Nick's point earlier, is that difficulty engaging with the scholarship. The student found the book that they were using very easy to read, but of course, if you're just taking all your references, you're only using one source, then you're not going to get a wide range of information to make your essay. You're just going to be able to follow that one author's line of thinking. So just before I go on to that, so Nadia, I will get back to Nadia on that problem, is that Nadia can't see the original paper, and I will make sure to add a point in the blog about this. So just a brief note on misconduct procedures. Within the academic misconduct policy, just make sure you're clear on the policy of how, and not just yourself, but also people within the department, markers, are clear about how they should report the misconduct. And the key issue that I want to point out here is that a Turnitin report is not evidence on its own of misconduct. It can be used to show the evidence, but you must either use the filters to reduce the report down to just the main matches. You can exclude different matches and just have the main pieces of text, or download the report and annotate the PDF in pen and then scan it in, or using the tools in the PDF software. Highlight the suspected misconduct, and then provide a written summary of the evidence. So what you've got to do here is provide the evidence and also the context of the assignment and what year they're in and why you're suspicious of plagiarism for the panel, so the panel members can make a decision. So sometimes people just say, oh, here's a Turnitin report, I think there's plagiarism in it. That's not enough in there. So anybody like to make any comments about that or any questions? So we'll just hang around. I know people will have to get off. It's already past 1:15. However, if anybody's got any questions, they can raise their hand. We can you can speak your answer in using the microphone as well, if you'd like. So I'll just be quiet for a second while people think about that. Okay, no problem, Nick. Thank you very much. Okay, great. Please feel free to contact me on integrity@york.ac.uk after this. Thanks for that, Rachel. Okay, looks like so. Okay, so the question, are there any plans to make submission of via Turnitin automatic outside of English? They are working on different things. Which department are you with, Rachel? With hymns. Okay, I will speak to, I think it would be Paul Scott for that. I will have a chat with him and see about that. It's really up to the Board of Studies to have this issue raised and then see whether that can be then taken on by the administrators. It's because we have a good process of doing that now. It's not that long of a process to do it. If you're taking in electronic assignments already, it's just a case of adding an extra step to that, and eventually it just blends into the process. So there's lots of departments doing it. English, education. I know that Centre for Applied Human Rights check everything through. So departments are doing it in different ways, but we don't have a policy across the university for this. Departments don't have to do this. Thanks for your question. Okay, thanks very much, everybody. And we will have this uploaded on the e-learning development blog, and you can view this later. And also, please pass it on to colleagues as well if you found it useful. Thank you very much.